Pete Yost here for the UnBuildIt podcast with a word about our sponsor, Huber Engineered Woods. There are really three reasons why I think Huber Engineered Woods stands out, and it's a big part of why they're a sponsor of our UnBuildIt podcast. First, they develop systems of products. The products are compatible and integrated. Makes our jobs a lot more easy in the field and when specifying. Second is superior tech support. There are really good website resources that they have developed for the application of their products, but they also have an outstanding 800 numbered tech team that really knows their stuff. And the last is a really active technical research and development team with whom I've done a lot of work over the years, and I have a lot of faith in the information I get from them when I have questions about product performance. So that's it. That's our high performance sponsor. Now on to the podcast. Welcome back, everybody. This is the UnBuildIt podcast. It's Pete Yost hosting with my co-hosts, Steve Basic, architect, Jake Bruden, builder.
Hello.
I can do both of them.
You forgot what you did.
Hey, you got my name.
So we're talking about claddings, and we've already broken down wall claddings. And it's funny because people say, when you say claddings, what do you mean? And I mean, it's the outside finish on any part of the enclosure. So we have wall claddings and roof claddings. And today's topic is roof claddings. So we have a whole bunch of different ones we can choose from, and we're going to talk pretty much about all of them. But is there anything related to design, Steve, in terms of what affects your roof cladding choices? Like maybe pitch of the roof or
Style appropriateness, pitch of roof, budget,
Venting, unventing.
venting, regional decisions. In New England, we do a lot of cedar roofs. So that's pretty common.
I think it is interesting that for ad infinitum, we've had asphalt roofing shingles that cost just about a third of almost any other choice, right? And so asphalt shingles dominate so much largely because of cost, although they're pretty versatile, right, and easy to install. But certainly, a huge waste disposal problem that we have with asphalt roofing shingles. But the other ones are all almost triple the installed cost.
So then why the heck would anybody pick them?
Or more than triple the cost.
Yeah.
Or more, right. Sort of a minimum.
So the first, I guess, myth is that shingles cost more than a metal roof.
Really, there are people that believe shingles cost more than a metal roof?
Or not, metal roof costs more than shingles.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. So it depends on how you look at it, right? So if you take your average shingle roof, a metal roof in our region is probably 3 to 4 times the cost.
Mm-hmm.
But it lasts 3 to 4 times the length.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I'm not going to have to pay for the third roof. If I put
Somebody
on
else
asphalt.
is?
Somebody else is. I'm going to move.
Well,
so it is more
quite
expensive.
possibly, if that's the case. But if you're doing your dream house and you're going to live here forever and believe that. Then
Well, and you'd expect to get the value of that roof back as part of the value transfer
Yeah.
to the new house, right? Because one of the things that goes on the form for the realtor is like, how old is the roof? How old is the boiler? Like, stuff like that.
right. And how durable or maintenance free or maintenance friendly the material is. So metal roofs have, for some clients it's a no-brainer. Yeah, we're doing a metal roof. Why wouldn't we? It's, don't want the maintenance of the shingle roof. We don't like the look. We like the look of the metal roof. The other thing to consider, believe it or not, is PV arrays, right, on the roof. We have a lot of projects that we do metal roofs just because it's a little easier to attach. And the attachment is external of the cladding and it doesn't penetrate it when you do a metal roof.
I think that's a huge deal. And it's interesting when you say metal roofs. I think that you're standing seam because the corrugated roof systems can be quite popular.
garbagey.
My brother tells the time with a very experienced carpenter who was installing metal roofing for the first time, the corrugated metal, and he goes to put the first fastener in, and he puts it in the valley of the corrugation. And my brother goes, I don't think that's how that works. Note to self.
The other consideration, believe it or not, is fire control. Right? I have some projects that are in areas that are prone to get forest fires and stuff, and they might not be these blazing fires that, metal roof isn't going to stop that very much, but, floating embers and stuff through the air and landing on your roof, the metal roof is certainly going to help.
I also had a client who was moving from a quite aged corrugated metal roof to a standing seam as an upgrade. And that came with an incidental change that the corrugated was a naturally vented roof between the cladding and the rest of the roof, and the standing seam wasn't. And she had, when she made the change, the roofer didn't mention anything about the fact that, hey, by the way,
you have a lot more water held in tension and then a lot less drying potential. And
yeah.
It's interesting when we do our metal roofs. I don't know if I ever told you this. We always apply say about a half-inch. Backer rod. We tape it to the back of the metal panel.
Yeah. So you intentionally oil can?
Invert the tension.
Yeah.
Pre-camber.
That's much better than oil canning. So you've created a bit of a natural vent channel.
We create a little bit of a natural vent channel.
And you've pre-stressed the panel
pre-stressed the panel in a negative way, so that.
But it's a positive thing.
Yeah, but it has to work out of the negative bend before it can even think about going positive. So,
same client, the roofing contractor installed a vented ridge vent system for the standing seam with an unvented contact between the rest of the roof and the cladding, so that when it rained really, really hard and it was windy, they got a lot of water at the ridge with no place to go but to be held in tension with the roofing underlayment. It took me a long time to figure that out.
Well, it actually brings up a very common thing that happens. You get, like it or not, roofing is a dirty, crappy aspect of our industry. Like, it is a hard job. It is a hot job. It is one of the jobs that tends to garner unskilled labor and less educated carpenters working in that instance. And I'm saying tends to. I know that there are highly educated, really great people that are really paying attention. But what we run into is there's a hailstorm, and then there's a bunch of fly-by-night that come in from out of town. They put roofs on, they cut in vents, they don't cut in vents, they add ridge vent instead of the turtle vents, they add turtle vents instead of the ridge vent, they change the way that the roof can potentially operate. And we've had clients have roofs fail because the ridge vent is more expensive than the turtle vents, and so they put turtle vents on a cathedralized ceiling that was relying on a ridge vent to vent every single joist bay, and now the clients have plywood even, sheathing, buckling on a roof 2 years after it was replaced.
Do you each have a go-to? Sounds like, Steve, the go-to cladding for you is standing seam metal. Did you say?
Well, that would probably be the number one choice for a lot of reasons. I think it's got a nice aesthetic appeal to it in most cases.
And the PV installation,
installation, it's highly durable. So
I would say that it's my favorite.
40 colors, 50 colors at least.
Yeah.
Colors that last too. That I would say it's my favorite. For the most part, it's one of the first things that's end up getting cut budget wise from our jobs. That our market is so dominated by asphalt shingles that people have no problem going, okay, we'll just do shingles.
And I was working on I have been working on a couple projects lately where the difference between, that's an 1.5 inch standing seam compared to an inch, or, that's a 22 gauge, metal roof as opposed to a 26 gauge. And all of these things have an impact on the durability. So while in general, standing seam metal roofs are more durable. There's a lot of variability there in terms of the cost of the system.
This is America. We can take really good things and find a way to make them cheap.
And Steve, so how low can you take
How low can you go?
You've taken a rather dry topic and introduced some musical quality, so I'm right there with you, buddy.
Are you talking about roof slope with metal
I'm
roofs?
talking about roof slope with metal roofs, because I know you have something to say. Uh-oh.
112.
Right? Oh, I thought you were saying 1 minute.
I was going to say, hold on. I thought you were
Sorry,
saying,
I put
hold on.
one finger up for everybody that's not watching
You really get your signs down because your signs are...
Sorry, how was I supposed to...
I don't know, but that doesn't work. I'm not looking over there.
112?
Can't make me really...
So, can't make you. It's funny that the guy who's outsizes all of us says, you can't make me. Well, no, I know we can't make you do anything.
I know that on the internet, it looks like he's taller than me, but he's not. Everybody
Have you ever
keeps
seen that picture of us in the little green box where you look like my 5-year-old kid.
Where are you going with this?
I don't know. It's a long day already. How about that?
Every picture we took, it looks like it's...
Yeah, it looks like my dad's...
to school.
Yeah, it looks like my dad's taking me for a walk to the park.
The picture of you and I playing foosball, I mean, I look like a little, like a, an undersized person as opposed to a full-size
Undersized person. Is that a politically correct term? Undersized person? He's like a person, but smaller. Look at his little hands.
Wow, he's undersized.
Undersized person. I don't believe I've ever heard that come out of anybody's mouth before. Is that a term you normally use, or was that an accident? Like you're driving and you're like, hey, honey, look, there's an undersized person crossing the street.
Oh, my goodness.
That's a tough crowd.
So we can take a standing seam metal.
He's going to keep plugging along.
Put your hand down.
I've taken standing seam metal roofs down to a 1 in 12. The project Jake and I did. We took it down to 1 in 12 under certain circumstances.
And the roofer that I work with says at 1 in 12, he does the double lap in the standing seam, and he always includes like a super high performance sealant in that double lap. That's the key. So,
you know what's interesting though? It's so the lap, I would say, has a lot to do with the wind and that, not so much drainability or getting like quantity of water, right? So I don't know how much more of a durable difference the double lap on a 1 in 12 versus a 3 in 12 single lap is, right? I don't.
I mean, I think they're doing it because they're more worried about how much time the water is spending on the roof, but he's pretty adamant that that's what they require for...
Or freeze thaw on the roof.
Yeah.
You're more likely to have snow sit on a 112 than you might a 1212.
Yeah, that would be probably the only reason. In the lower part.
But with the 112, what you're saying is we have actually tested adequate ventilation.
And it vented.
Yeah, nicely.
That's also a 1 in 12, let's call it 1 in 12 with special circumstances, right?
It's not a 200 by 200 foot roof.
Right. It was a pretty narrow roof, 18 feet wide.
Yep.
And it was, 40 some odd feet long, but it was totally vented on the rakes, the soffit, and the eaves, the roof eave. So there was a lot that were positive decisions.
And dark in color. So, boy, you put BTUs on any roof and the ventilation just screams. It's pretty cool.
It starts moving.
So what kind of roofs can we install that have very low heat absorption then?
Wood.
Okay. What else?
Wood shingle.
Probably a white membrane roof.
Clay tile.
Is clay tile that low?
Well, I think
the density would be...
They take on some heat, but they're pretty well vented.
Well, true, but
can't you grout them too, though? Are there grouted ones?
No, they're not.
I've never seen them grouted. Yeah,
they're nailed and usually on like a metal on some type of strapping.
Skips.
Then I've seen a bottom of the clay tile, the leading edge,
the very first
that's
one.
mortared,
like an insect closure,
alternating too.
Yeah,
throughout the.
Yeah, they're pretty amazing in terms of how much air, how well ventilated they are.
Yeah, well, because they're not even directly on the roof. They're
Right.
usually set up on top. When we did it with Carl Dura, we actually had a plastic corrugated strip that we would set them on. So It was like a rain screen system underneath the tile.
Yeah. So the skip sheathing was honeycombed.
Yes, pretty much. And the next level to that is a lot of times we do concrete tile too, to save. Like the real clay tile was a little bit more expensive, so you could get the cheapened look with a concrete tile and save.
Not cheapened looked.
Well, it is a little cheaper of a look.
Okay.
Because you didn't get the barrel vault. Like the concrete tiles were typically flat and thicker. They have like a 1-inch face to it.
And the barrel vault are ones that are so cool looking.
Yeah, they have that kind of mission appeal.
Yeah. So when we do any of those roof cladding systems, when we have a penetration, we are flashing to the roofing underlayment underneath, not to the cladding, of course.
Right.
Which is a good lesson for homeowners. Quit trying to caulk things down to the shingles. That's not where the problem is.
Yeah.
The system's designed to let the water get underneath that layer of shingles.
And if that initial amount of caulk or tar, it doesn't work, simply add more until you have a little mount tar on your roof. That seems to be the general
You
approach.
probably charge more for people. You have tar on your roof. Oh yeah,
Well, if I have to, I can't carry the tar up to the roof. I won't do that. It's too heavy.
Yeah, subcontractors. But.
I do. Yeah.
we talk about tar. Have you ever done a ballasted roof?
A ballasted roof?
Like a gravel on top of a...
I want to say I have. Where did we do that? It was just once where we did a stone ballasted roof. Where that's like true felt tar.
And then
stone
gravel.
And I think it was to match an existing roof system on the house.
We looked at one that had a small leak, and the leak was at a plumbing penetration, and and so I actually called a roofing contractor from like 2 hours away that did ballasted roofs. He was probably 75 when he came and looked at it 10 years ago, and he got up and he brought stuff with him to fixed it, and then inspected the rest of the roof, and he said, "Yeah, this one's probably about from 1950." He said, I wouldn't touch it. Seems like it's fine. And I was like, what? this roof is 60 years old, and you're going, I wouldn't worry about it. I was like, okay, sure, we'll leave it.
Wow.
And he actually drove down here. I bought him lunch, and we talked about the stuff that we needed to look at on the roof. And then he didn't bill me. He was like, no, I get to see him every once in a while. I wouldn't do anything today. I was like, okay.
Ooh.
You just drove 2 hours. Like I tried to get
It's sort of the opposite business plan as mine as I get older, right?
Yeah.
So one thing I did want to point out is with standing seams, kind of a pet peeve of mine, if a penetration like a plumbing stack falls where there's a standing seam, that's just not flashable. So you got to make sure that you coordinate the spacing with things like penetrations, because in a valley...
you spoke on this before.
Yeah.
The hard thing that I have to understand is how did somebody end up that way? Because when we do the metal roofs, they usually cut the penetrations in after the roof is on.
and just a sealant to put the flashing down?
They have a way to flash it or whatever. We were doing a project and I was talking about it and said, and the contractor was like, yeah, don't worry about it. We'll cut those in later.
I'm not quite sure I understand. How do you cut in later a plumbing stack penetration?
Either that or they leave that panel out or something. I don't know. But it was...
Interesting.
I've never run into an instance where the...
Pause.
Yeah. Turn the volume down. Obviously.
That's okay. You can pick it back up, but I've never run into an instance.
Say that again. No.
I've never run into an instance was where you were headed. Start with that.
I've never run into an instance where, I drove onto a project and we had a pipe poking out the seam.
So you've never had the plumber work with the roofer to get the spacing right?
I mean, maybe they do.
Yeah.
And they figure it out.
He wouldn't know. He's in his castle ticking away on a computer.
I thought we had a conversation once where you talked
Let's
about...
play a game of Guess Who I Am. Hello, IG. Today, I figured I would do a story from the truck since I haven't done one for a while. So we're going to drive to 5 of my job sites today, and we'll see what's going on. So stay tuned, because here we go.
Is he trying to be belittling? Or is he just...
I thought it was a pretty good routine, but clearly he's trying to get under your craw.
Okay, so how about this with the flashings and layout and all that kind of stuff? I've done this twice now, and we're still trying to decide if we really think it's the right way. The Hilltop house and another house that we built both don't have roof penetrations.
Oh, interesting.
They're wall penetrations that then loop under the soffit and then vent. And so we take a really nice metal roof and we poke holes in it. Really?
Yeah.
Why don't we just find a way to not do that?
Which brings up, I learned just recently, air admittance valves instead of roof penetrations. You can't use them in Massachusetts. Is that true?
I don't believe so.
Yeah.
Like, under islands and stuff, there's special conditions where you can do stuff like that.
Huh. Because they've been around for a long time. I have several air admittance valves, and they work perfectly fine. Or air admittance vents, I think they're called, not valves.
A couple rules though. When we do talk about roof penetrations, I try and tell the plumber and such to keep them on the back side of the roof, so you drive up, you don't see them.
Yeah.
And if we do see them, then they're really good about like Shoreline Builders. He's really good about. He'll put them in an area, but he'll stack like 2 or 3 of them together, so they look like very intentionally positioned.
Yeah.
And the other thing is to put them high on the roof, or as
Why
high
is
as
that?
you can, because they're going to see the least amount of water.
Right.
Without being seen. So you don't put them 6 inches down from the ridge, so it's poking up on the backside. But if it's a 24-foot run, they're up in the 20-foot range.
Because you can potentially reduce the water that hits it by 2/3.
Yeah, exactly.
The old slate roofs, the biggest slates were at the eave. And if you look at the ridge, the really tiny slates, and of course they have more joints and they would potentially leak more, but so little rain falls there, they figured, well, let's put the smallest, the least expensive and the most available slates.
Wait, it rains less at the top of my... Sorry.
Yeah, so it's kind of neat because when they were doing the new residential college dorms at Yale a couple years ago, even though there's a membrane under that roof and it doesn't matter what kind of slates you use, they followed the same pattern of tiny slates at the top and big slates down at the eaves.
It's almost like they didn't have all these membranes and caulkings and things like that, and they had to make things waterproof without going back next week and caulking it a second time.
Yeah.
Well, you got to remember their buildings were far more forgiving.
They were.
Than they are today. So
sure.
When you're baking that roof dry in the summer, all summer long at 120 degrees.
So we could split these into, pitched roof claddings and low slope claddings. And so we've talked about asphalt shingles. We've talked about standing seam metal. We talked a little bit about
corrugated metal
and not slates, but we've talked about cementitious mason clay tile. Are there any other claddings before we move on to low slope membranes? Wood shingle.
We do a lot of cedar wood shingle roofs.
Do they still up there? In your market? Do they still install it on skip sheathing?
Most of the time, we install it on cedar breather.
Yeah,
they'll put down a self-adhered membrane, like an ice and water shield kind of thing. Or, now you can use Zip's self-adhered membrane. And then you put the cedar breather down. That's Benjamin Opdyke's product. And then you put the cedar shakes on top of that. All the flashings are typically copper. So
what's interesting is, so you've got good drying potential behind the cladding, but when you put that membrane down, now you have to have a separate strategy for the sheathing underneath.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I've only seen a handful of cedar shake roofs in my market. They were popular in the 80s, and I think all of them are gone now that I was aware of. Is that a 20-year roof? Is it a longer roof for your market?
It's a longer roof, and it's like anything. You can buy I've seen some houses where they use like an Alaskan yellow cedar shingle. The damn shingle's 18 inches, and it's like 5/8 of an inch.
Yeah, that stuff that was in our market was like 3/4 thick. It felt like.
Wow.
So
And I was like, well, no wonder it's lasting.
Pretty heavy stuff.
There's only so much you can do, though, right? Like if it's a product that's affected by UV, eventually the water and the UV combo are going to be a problem.
And like some things, there's anomalies. Remember, we were working on a project where we were taking off a wood shingle, putting on a big addition, and then reshingling the whole house. And I sent you, Peter, pictures. Remember those cupped shingles?
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out why the hell they did that. I mean, they were literally like U-shaped, and it wasn't every one. It was like on
wasn't
the roof.
the grain of the wood.
Dozen of them. I don't know. It just
could have been the way the grain was split.
It was really but it was really, really weird. I mean, when they cut shingles, you don't buy cedar shingles and just throw them on the roof. You get specific roof shingles that are cut to be on a roof, cut from a certain depth and dimension.
And I think we're seeing a lot less of them because I think they're much more difficult in terms of insurance costs.
Yeah, there's certainly a much higher flame issue.
And there's some places
wood.
where you can't do them anymore because of the fire potential.
New England,
Yeah.
So and that probably is driven from insurance only. Like the code still accepts it.
Codes
Yeah,
driven by insurance, right? You have some big catastrophe, and all of a sudden the whole code gets rewritten.
So out of everything that we just talked about for slope roofing, slate, is that the most durable? Like my father-in-law's last house was 110 years old or something like that and had an original roof on it.
We have a project right now with a slate and copper roof.
Our house is 120 years old approximately, original slates. And I was very concerned that we needed to yank them all off and replace them. 2 different roofers come up and say, no, they may look like they're so
mossy.
One of my main concerns was the fasteners are not, they're straight shank. And so like those are just working up and down through the
But they're into good solid wood.
They're good in solid wood. And he said, yeah, so you lose a slate. What do? You go up. So they have a program where they have a team for this roofing contractor that all they do is random slate replacement. So they come and they have a whole program for it because it's so hard to get a hold of people that know how to do slates. And a lot of times he said, if it's not a major job, we have a crew in Vermont because there's so many slate roofs, and we have a business sort of model set up specifically for your problem. Because some people have missing slates and they'll wait for 2 years to get them fixed. But he said, our response to that was, well, we'll just do it as we have a team that goes around and that's all they do. They're really fast at setting up and doing those replacements.
If you wait long enough, they can generate like 3 or 4 in the same vicinity.
I don't know how they replace it. I mean, everything overlaps. Do you have to literally lift one off of a fastener?
There are special tools for not only, getting the fasteners up and out, but then sliding the next slate in. Yeah. There's just special hand tools that they use for that.
It would be pretty neat to see because I have no idea how you fasten the new slate.
Well, if you have someone in your life that is currently working on a degree in poetry, at some point they'll know. I feel like that's that artisan roofer crew is.
But
those are all guys, lit majors.
The dead load it's a heavy roof.
You have to make sure that when you are designing the roof, that the roof structural system, that whatever the roofing material is, that it's getting acknowledged by the structural system.
And, the joke is that if you have a slate roof in snow country, then if you install gutters, it's an annual installation cost because when the snow lets go on a slate roof, it comes loose all at once. I don't know exactly why that happens, but that's always how they shed.
Well, even though there's quite a elevation change in them sometimes, there's not much of a break that would want to, as things are sliding down, to pop off. It's the same as kind of a metal roof at that point, right?
I guess
there's
so.
Nothing to.
But it's got to be. I mean, all avalanches, I think, are the same concept, right? It's like you have a certain level of friction that's holding them.
Holding capacity.
And then the weight increases and the friction is starting to get overcome, at some point, there's a breaking point where the friction is overcome due to the weight, and it goes.
There's actually a term for that. It's called self-organized criticality. When you have things mounded up and they're sort of stochastically placed, and there's just this point to which it says, ollie, ollie, and free, and it all lets go. It's called self-organized criticality.
How many words in that couple paragraphs that he said did you not know? How about ollie, ollie, ox, and free at the end of it?
Okay, so have we sufficiently brutalized steep slope?
We have,
claddings?
and we're going to have to say flat roofs for another day.
We're out of time?
We're just under. We don't have time to sufficiently cover it today. I think we need to wait and run.
It's a whole cool topic, yeah, because we can get into EPA cool roofs. That's a cool topic.
Garden roofs.
Ooh, we didn't even talk about that beforehand.
I thought gardens
green
were supposed to
roofs.
get lots of sunlight.
On a rooftop, you could potentially get a little bit of roof gardens, roof decks.
Okay.
All right, living roofs.
Push that all into the same category. Flat roofs and decks and all that good stuff.
Okay, so that's what the UnBuildIt podcast calls a cliffhanger. Till next time.
We took it right from underneath me.
If you're watching on YouTube, leave us a comment. Let us know what you think. Ask some questions. Like, subscribe, hit the bell so you get the reminder. If you're listening, please go to iTunes and give us a 5-star review. That's how other people find out about us. We're doing this so that other people can find out about us. We want to share this information, and at least I enjoy doing this. These two might just be along for the ride, but let other people know so that we all get to share in this together. Till next time, have a good day.
See you on the slopes.